Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Chicken Wings and Wasted Dreams. I'm one of your hosts, Levi Daniel. Joining me today, as always, is my co-host, the phenomenal Tyler Thompson. Today, we'll also be bringing back the ginger miniature Ben Sisk.
The three of us will be taking you on a journey for your mind as we talk about the theory of anything, from sports, music, to our favorite food hacks, game theories, and more.
Join us while exploring the depths of life's most meaningful questions, like today. What offseason needs for some of the top contenders going into the next season are for the NBA? As always, if today just makes your life just the tiniest bit better, please show your support by giving us a like, subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and tell your friends. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Top off-season needs for each teams. I think we need to start off by talking about the Lakers. Yes, the the defending champs of the bubble will be going into season 2021? Yeah.
It will be.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so going into season 2021, what my Lakers need, and who they're going to potentially target in trading or free agency. So, first, before I give my opinions, because I am going to, probably give a couple biased picks here. Tyler, tell me what you think about the Lakers. What do they need? Who should they target?
Like a big need right off the bat. It's just some kind of playmaker, passer that can help. I guess you'd say round out that offense. Because your regular season, LeBron had 10.2 assists per game. The next closest was Rondo with 5, and then it dropped down to 2 assists per game after that. LeBron's going to be, I think he's 35 now.
Yeah, he'll
I
be
mean,
going into his 18th season, and this is the first time he's really been the true point guard of a team, and he showed that by leading the league in assists per game. So that's something that I know he took pride in doing, but I do in a way agree. I think we should bring Rondo back, but he might get a payday somewhere else, and I wouldn't blame him for chasing that money now that he got his second ring, kind of sealed his kind of legacy here. Ben, what do you think about what the Lakers' top need is going into the offseason?
Um, I definitely agree with as somebody who can definitely dish and create their own space and shot. Definitely kind of lighten the load a little on LeBron, like you said. I'm sure he the league assists, but it's gonna be another year. It's not gonna be another bubble year. He's gonna need some help.
Yeah, definitely. And something that I really wanted to talk about when we're on this subject is potential specific players that we should be targeting. You know, one that I think is realistic because again, I'm trying not to be too biased. If I was going to be biased, I would spoil alert talk about Bradley Beal. We're going to talk about him a little bit later in the show, but right now, realistically, there's two names that I keep seeing pop up over and over again uh, in these trade rumors, this flurry of news that's, coming. The 2021 season is rapidly approaching. It's going to start in December, so whatever offseason moves are going to be happening real shortly. My number one name right now, most realistic, is Victor Oladipo. So the reason why I say Victor Oladipo is my number one, and I'll talk about my number two guy, and you all are going to really love that one. But my number one guy, Victor Oladipo. One, he will be, I believe, going into his 30. He is coming off of an injury, but he came back to to the bubble, he did still shoot decently, still showed that he does still have that quick first step. He can make plays while he's not a true point guard. He can guard the opponent's best ball handler while also giving us, a 20 and 5 scorer consistently every night. Tyler, what do you think about Victor Oladipo, and what would the Lakers have to give up to get him?
I think Oladipo would be a pretty good choice. He'll be 28 at the beginning of the season. He turns 29 next year. So he's maybe got a few more years left in him than we figured. But let's see, he's played over 70 games twice in his career. And the last 2 years in Indiana, he played 36 and 19. So if you can keep him on the floor, I think he would be a great compliment to the team. But he's only averaged over 20 in one season, and that was where he played 75 games there. He hasn't really had much experience in the postseason. And then going after him, that's a tough choice there.
So would you say that the Lakers are in win now mode, right? They're not necessarily looking for life 4 or 5 years down the road right now. Reports from Anthony Davis's camp is that he's going to sign a bunch of 1-and-1s, specifically to kind of keep his options open, not commit too long term, kind of see what life after LeBron's going to be like even. So I think going for a 1-year rental in Oladipo might be their best bet, even though I do agree injuries definitely have derailed Oladipo's career a little bit. So what I would say, if we go through the ESPN trade machine here, that we could give up Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma straight up for Victor Oladipo. We may even have to throw in a couple as many seconds as they want. What do you think about that trade?
I mean, it's a trade I would definitely do. I didn't. Is he an unrestricted free agent this year, Oladipo, or would you have to trade for him?
You would have to trade for him. He would be. He's on the last year of a
That massive contract he
and he
got.
has I think he has a player option for the 2021 season, so he can opt out, assuming he plays well and he's going to be looking for a max deal, which, by the way, we could re-sign him, AD, and LeBron all to max deals because we have literally everybody coming off the books in 2021.
Well, you'll have to see what they do with the cap because they're gonna intentionally inflate it this season so they don't hurt it. Because they were projected to drop down to around 90, 100 million cap, and they're gonna try to inflate it this year to keep it up. So if everybody comes back and plays, if they get fans back in, it'll look good for a salary cap side. But if they continue to play bubble ball and keep everybody out, it's going to affect a lot of teams in the future, and it'll affect how they are going to sign everybody this offseason.
Yeah, something that I think we all tend to forget about, that cap issue with both the NFL and the NBA, something that we will touch on a little bit later. But yeah, definitely something that is food for thought is, did COVID ruin the salary cap for the NBA? How will that affect teams all around the league? And will this force some stars like Giannis to re-sign with the Bucks because simply he won't get that money anywhere else no matter what, because no other team will have room? Of course, teams would definitely make room, but then you're sacrificing all your depth, and then you're going to run into the issue that teams like the Bucks had, of where their bench just wasn't good enough, or their second or third star just wasn't good enough. And that's something we're going to get into in just a couple moments. But let me go ahead and talk about my second pick, my second target for the Lakers this offseason that's realistic. And that's, I know he's a personal favorite of mine. He's definitely a personal favorite of Tyler's. I don't know if he is about Ben, but I'm about to ask Ben, what do you think about the Lakers trading for Derrick Rose from the Pistons?
This would make me. I would probably. I mean, I don't even know how I can really describe. They did that. That would make me so happy. Like Christmas. You know, like even though I'm not really a Laker fan, I'm a D Rose fan. I would love to see that happen.
Who is USAA made for? It's made for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all would love to see Derrick Rose get that ring, right?
Oh, definitely.
So my question is, Tyler, I'll go to you. What do you think the Lakers would have to give up to get a player like Derrick Rose?
So that's another spot where I'm just kind of lost. Like, he's counting for $7 million against the cap this year, and he's got 2 years left on that deal. I mean, your best bet, to me, it looks like would be maybe like a 3-player trade for him. But I don't. I mean, would you want to do that? Would the Lakers want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, he is injury prone. So, I mean, I guess you kind of run that risk where you would have to have like a two-headed monster in a sense. You know, like you'd have to have somebody ready to go in
Like,
that spot in any moment.
I'm seeing Quinn Cook, Caruso, and Kuzma for Rose. It works salary wise, but away from those 3 players, your next closest salary, you've got Taylor Horton Tucker taking $898,000 for the year, and then the next step up is $14 million from Danny Green.
Yeah, so this was the trade that I had put into the NBA trade machine, was Danny Green for Derrick Rose and either Thon Maker, or you could do John Henson. You could take that awful contract of Tony Snell. I don't know if they do that, but the one that I put right now would be Derrick Rose and Thon Maker, and then the Lakers would throw in a first or as many seconds, kind of similar to the other trade of Danny Green and a first. So the Pistons would get, some draft capital, and we would get a point guard who wants to win now. The Pistons have said that they want to do right by Derrick Rose to send him somewhere that, he'll be happy. They don't want to, they love him there, but they obviously know that they're rebuilding. They've already been shopping Blake Griffin to blow everything up. And I think Thon Maker might be a little wishful thinking, because I think that he still does have potential to kind of develop as a big man, but he would also be a good replacement for Dwight, given that he does have a little bit more of a outside shot.
It's true. I can see that working out. And then we also have to think about they have that $1.7 million trade exception from Andre Drummond. They've got that still in the books too.
That is true. So they could theoretically use that and give a lesser player than Thon Maker if they really didn't want to. They could
Bruce Brown, perhaps, maybe. Jordan McRae, he's a good utility player.
Yeah.
I think Christian Wood is kind of starting to come into his own, so I don't really see that being one of they try to ship out.
True. True, true, true. Awesome. Yeah, so this, but yeah, I would definitely see something along these lines, um, where we get Derrick Rose and another piece to make the salaries work, and we get rid of Danny Green, because as a Lakers fan, I feel like Danny Green really, really let us down in the playoffs. Like, he was fine in the regular season. I mean, he shot nearly 39%, I think around 38, almost 39%, a little tad under, which is fine. But then later into the playoffs, especially the last two rounds, I just felt like, he was building houses out there. He was building projects, in the neighborhood.
That's true. It wasn't what you would expect from him, honestly, coming out there like that.
And I also think that, we mostly signed him for his defensive prowess, because he's always been more of a finesse defender, but he's always been one of the league's best perimeter defenders. But he really didn't bring it on the defensive end either. So he's becoming more and more of a liability. And I think that huge expiring contract for the Pistons plus a pick will help them. And then we actually get somebody who can help us win right now. And we can worry about the future later. All right, so what else do you all think that the Lakers would go for? Do you think that there's any other targets?
I keep seeing Darren Collison mentioned as a possible fit. What would you think about him coming in?
Darren Collison, very underrated point guard for his whole career. He would have been out for 2 years in a row. And that's something that I feel is hit or miss. I really wanted to see J.R. Smith or Deion Waiters play in like meaningful moments, just to kind of see like what we had in those players. I think we kind of may have missed the mark there with not giving them some playing time, because we were really, really missing that shooting. I think Avery Bradley's going to come back. That's going to also help us a lot on the defensive side of things. So while I would rather see us kind of try to keep developing Caruso versus picking up a Darren Collison and maybe keeping a Deion Waiters and J.R. Smith at the end of our bench. Ben,
Well, I
what do you
mean, you
think?
already have Caruso, who already he can dish and dime all day, so he already covers that. So it's already the benefit of using him.
Yeah.
We've also got somebody like Isaiah Thomas coming up as a free agent this year, and he said he has finally been cleared from his injury to play.
So I'm not sure if, unfortunately, as he had one of the most memorable seasons in NBA history, I think, with the Celtics a couple years ago, and then they kind of did him dirty. I really don't see how he can contribute to a team in the playoffs when you talk about guarding Steph Curry, you talk about guarding Kyrie, you talk about, all these point guards. You really have to hide Isaiah Thomas. And if you put him on a 6'6" shooting guard, even somebody who doesn't really create their own shot, but like a Klay Thompson that can just shoot over him, and you're really just kind of hurting your defense. And I don't think he would come back to the Lakers anyways, but if he did, I think that it would actually hurt us. I think Isaiah Thomas needs to go to a team that, that he's going to get the majority of touches on offense. And so he can just go kind of live his own best life. Somewhere like, maybe Utah. I think Utah would be a better fit for him. That way he can just be their sixth man, score 20, 30 off the bench.
Seems good enough. So you guys have only 6 players under contract for this next season.
This is
Yep.
true. This is true.
LeBron, Danny Green, Quinn Cook, Caruso, Kuzma, and Taylor Horton Tucker.
This
So
is
you're
true.
definitely going to need the help out there. But
Yeah.
what do you find as the big thing?
Yeah. One name I've heard, and I'm actually, for whatever reason, some are saying that he's not going to be a good fit on our team, but I don't know why. Maybe you all can shed some light on this. Ben's favorite team is the OKC Thunder, so I'm going to actually ask Ben this question. Ben, Danilo Gallinari, does he still have it, and would he be a fit on the Lakers?
Well, as far as if he still got it, I think he still got it. I think he won't be as, great as before. Obvious age, it's time, something you can't defeat. It's always gonna beat you. So, I mean, I think he's still effective as far as being a fit for the Lakers. I don't know. I mean, I could see him that if he was on the Lakers, definitely being like, the situational, just letting him kind of find his spot and just kind of chill, stretch the floor kind of guy. So, I mean, I think it could work, but I don't think it's the thing.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about a lineup that would include, in my mind right now, Oladipo, LeBron, AD, Gallinari, Derrick Rose, and insert anyone else there? That wouldn't fit. That wouldn't work.
That's a really tempting lineup. Yeah. I mean, that does.
Yeah.
Sounds nice on paper.
It sounds real nice
Definitely.
on paper. A lot of people have really said that for whatever reason, Gallinari wouldn't fit there. I really think we need that stretch big man, Markeith.
I mean, all he's gonna do is compliment AD. I feel like afford to get, they're each gonna have their own, one-on-ones or any double. Then that's where the defense is gonna crumble if it's picked. If it's picked up.
Yeah, one of our biggest issues wasn't getting open looks. We had a lot of I was watching the games and we had so many open jumpers that were just straight up missed. And somebody like Gallinari would just be that sniper that we would need.
Yeah,
to just
that's what I'm saying. He
knock
can
down a
still
shot.
be effective for sure.
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely. All right, so we're gonna move on here. Enough about the champions. Looking to repeat for sure. They're gonna look to reload. Palinka's got a plan. I was skeptical at first, but I really believe that he's doing a decent job. So we're gonna head over though to our next team, the crosstown rivals, the Clippers. Tyler, tell me about the Clippers. How are they going to compete next year with the Lakers?
Honestly, it looks like they need to make some trades to get this team ironed out. And they have a great team on paper, of course, but it's going to translate to getting it done on the court also. I think they need to definitely bring back Marcus Morris. Because he just like his brother. He just comes in and gets the job done, honestly. And that's all you can ask for a player, just coming in off the bench for you. Kawhi, he's more of an isolation player. He plays best making his moments and getting through. And then you've got Montrezl Harrell. He's going to be a free agent this season, so it's going to come down to, does he believe in them enough to stay and play there? And he just won the Sixth Man of the Year, so I would imagine you would like to keep him, because him and Lou Will, their pick and roll game is just great. They can run an offense by themselves through that. I think a true point guard is going to be a big help to this team. And with Rondo being available, Ty Lue just getting signed as the new head coach, maybe they've got some kind of friendship where he thinks he could come in and start it off for him. I could see it happening for sure.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think that this means that Patrick Beverly is going to be moved out based on what you just said. Patrick Beverly, I think they should bring back Morris. I would love if Morris could find his way over to the Lakers. Don't get me wrong, but I think anybody who has either one of the Morris brothers is getting somebody who knows their stuff, on the court and rebounds. They do all the little dirty things that you need from a big man, plays defense, and they can hit the open jumper at a respectable rate. So if you got both of them, I know that they have been wanting to play with each other ever since when they last time they were, and they haven't had that chance. But now that they're in the same city, maybe they either reunite on the Lakers or the Clippers. Who knows? But I think that is a great choice for them to bring him back. I know Jerry West over there is making magic happening. He's putting together, great rosters. I think that it's going to be up to Ty Lue to bring it together. Personally, I think Ty Lue kind of got carried to a championship by LeBron, but he is a player's coach, right? So they really, really relate to him because he played the game. I'm not saying that Doc Rivers didn't, but Doc Rivers is kind of like a little old school, and Kawhi and PG and all these younger players, they kind of relate more to that newer thinking, that newer mindset, progressiveness, and stuff like that. So definitely bring back Lou. I have heard that they may trade either Lou or Harrell. I don't think that they should, but if they do, who do you think that they could realistically bring in for either one or both of those players?
So a big thing I'm seeing right now is the Suns are expected to go after Fred VanVleet, I'm sorry, but they need the cap space. So they could be looking to move Ricky Rubio, who's straight. He can get you the ball, he can dish it out, he can hit some shots. So they're looking to move him somewhere else. But they would just have to find that trade to make that work. But I don't know if they would want to bring in someone like Rubio. I think they would have to go through another team to get it to work because they don't have the cap space to make that work. So if you could pick somebody, maybe the Knicks, they've got some money. They could Landry Shamet, Lou Williams, Rodney Magruder. And then Rubio would get out of Phoenix. Atlanta would get another sharpshooter because that would be your third team. And then you'd have a short-term backup point guard. But I wouldn't really trust on him to get me through for maybe 4 or 5 years.
True, true. I love that pick, by the way. I feel like Rubio he's good on defense. He brings the assist playmaking that any team desires. I think that he does have a little bit of that Rondo issue where he's only going to be he's probably not going to be the best on scoring, but that's why you surround him with a bunch of scorers, which the Clippers have in spades, and they really, really were missing that playmaker, that actual playmaker. Because Lou makes plays for himself, even though he does, average a decent amount of assists. Patrick Beverley offers nothing on offense besides the occasional three, and Kawhi is probably one of the most, I'm hesitant to use the word selfish, but he does not pass the ball. I think he only averaged like 2 or 3 assists in the playoffs. And of course, Paul George is just a 3-and-D type player who can, create his own shot as well. But I think that's something that they missed is somebody like something that I was thinking was maybe bring back CP3 to the Clippers. The Lakers can't afford him, but the Clippers could if they package some of those salaries together.
And which the Thunder already or own basically all of the Clippers picks now.
That is true. I mean that is true. So they've already got that relationship, so they may decide like, okay, let's get Chris Paul back, and that would give them, and Chris Paul, let me say, what a underrated season he had, right? Taking that OKC squad who, while solid, they got a lot of potential, a lot of great young pieces. Man, to get them into a playoff spot, and they were competing in the playoffs as well, I give him a round of my applause.
Dude, OKC better not do a thing. They just better keep it the way it is. Keep it.
Yeah, I mean, if I was OKC, honestly, I would run it back, but
And I would sit right on what you got.
all the rumblings in the NBA right now for OKC. So we'll go ahead and transition to OKC because, Clippers don't deserve any more spotlight today. So OKC,
Well, I mean, honestly, in my opinion, the Clippers need to just get rid of PG. I like PG, but he's not good for them. He's got to go. And then that'll fix a lot, I feel like.
I've seen that suggested a lot. I mean, he did not show up in the playoffs.
I do agree that he did not show up in the playoffs, and that they could probably.
He has to be somewhere where he can be the show. I don't think he can play very well with other superstars. It's never translated.
Yeah, I think that, a playmaker would definitely help there, though. Somebody who can get him the ball in open areas. But moving on from the Clippers, OKC, I do agree. Like if they wanted to run it back, they're a perennial playoff team right now. But the rumblings, because we have
I
to
know, I
talk
tear
about the
up every time I
rumblings.
think of it too.
They're talking about moving CP3, Steven Adams, and also Dennis Schroeder. So they're talking, those are their 3 most veteran players, and they're talking about shipping them out. Obviously they want to get younger, they want to stockpile even more draft capital, which I think that they should honestly do the opposite. They should be going to the opposite side of things, which trade some of these pieces or trade some of this draft capital, get another star in there, like Bradley Beal or something, and then run it with this lineup, and I think they would be fine. I think that they would do great. what do you think they could get for CP3, Schroeder, or Adams?
Oh, really, I would love to see Steven Adams get traded to the Celtics for some of their first. They have 3 first-round picks this year. I think that would be a huge trade. It gives both teams what they want. Oklahoma City can look for someone to rebuild with, which, I mean, Steven Adams, he's there. He's constant, but he's not an offensive threat, really. Not in my mind. What do
Yeah,
you think, Ben?
No, yeah, definitely not an offensive threat whenever he's out there. But man, that dude eats boards.
So, which
That's
I
why I'm
love
keeping him out
big
there
man
because
playing D and all
he
that.
can keep a possession. Like, he's gonna fight for that possession.
I am all for it. Like I want my center to play D,
Yeah, I
get
want to pace the
rebounds.
center. Like that's his job. That's his cage, just like Ben Wallace. That's where he
See,
lives.
I was gonna bring Ben up also,
Creature.
but the thing about that is it's not 2004 anymore. Big man needs to be able to shoot now. And I'll give him, he shot 33% this year from 3, which is a huge surprise to me. But if he's gonna stay active, be the anchor down low, he's got to keep shooting it like that. Because he shot 0% in every other season except for this year. He shot 33% this year and was 0% every other year.
Well, I mean, you pair him with somebody to complement. Like, you already know what you're getting out of one. You got the two-headed beast. I think you have Steven Adams, because, like we just talked about, he's not gonna really be consistent giving points, but he can pretty much give you almost everything. Like, he can cover the board on a lot of the other critical stats. So you pair him up with somebody who can be a little more athletic, young, that who can get some attention. Like, it just lightens the load on him from having to be the force down low on offense. Like, he can just kind of watch the play and do his screens and rolls and, get his rebound.
yeah, I do agree though. I think he does need to go to the Celtics. I know the Celtics have been sniffing around him for several years now. I just wish they would pull the trigger. I think the Celtics just don't want to give up what OKC is asking for him, but I honestly don't think that whatever OKC is asking for him is too much to pay, since the Celtics always seem to have so many first round picks. They always seem to have draft, which is a testament to like how well that they trade. But at some point, Danny Ainge, I'm talking to you right now. I mean, you gotta make a fair trade at some point in your career if you're really wanting to take that next step. You can't just always look to be getting the better of every single trade. That's just not how life works. We get it. Okay, you ripped the Nets off. You've been coasting on that ever since. We get it. It's time for you to, pay back your dues. Get you Steven Adams. He fixes all of your issues on defense. You already have so much offense with Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Kemba. You don't need them. You are going to have to get rid of Gordon Hayward for somebody. Now, speaking of the Celtics, though, real quick, this is something that I seen today, was a potential trade of Gordon Hayward and some of that draft capital for Rudy Gobert. What do you all think about that? The man who shut down the entire NBA.
I could I could definitely see that happening. The only thing is, Utah's going to have to give up more than Rudy to make the money work. Because Gordon is still on that huge contract he got. He accounts for $32 million towards his salary this year. Him and Kimba both are over $30 million on that roster, and nobody else. The next closest is $12 million. So I would absolutely try to get that off my books.
Well, they're going to have to get rid of Gordon this year, right? Because they're going to have to sign Tatum and Jalen soon to massive contracts, right?
Jalen still has 4 years left, but Jason Tatum still has 2. So he's going to need it soon.
But not necessarily this year, but yeah, real soon. So,
Yeah, Hayward's gotta be a expendable piece. It's gotta be looked at being moved. He's good. I'm not trying to discredit him, but it's just not working.
So a trade I've found that works. I don't know if Utah would do it, but it's Joe Ingles and Rudy Gobert for Gordon Hayward. That gets the money right around 2.5 to 3 million apart, so it works. But Joe's a big time shooter.
I feel like that hurt Jazz too much.
yeah, I think that what they'll end up having to do is I don't think that they're not going to give up both Ingles and Rudy unless they get back something substantial in return for that, which
The multi-team
obviously,
song.
yeah, it may even need a third team, yeah. But they could theoretically, if they wanted to do this, they could give up and I apologize, I don't know much about this player, but uh, Niang is a small forward, and Williams Gross. You could give up Rudy Gay, Niang, and Williams Gross for Hayward. That's obviously 3 for 1. Obviously, if you're the Celtics, you don't want to add 3 bodies because you have so many like young, good players, and you obviously don't want to give something back. But you could give one of your bottom players to them if you want. But yeah, I think you're gonna have to get a third team involved to make the money work in this trade.
The bad part about that is they gotta pay Donovan Mitchell in about 2 years too, so they have to be really careful with how they do this.
Well, Hayward only has 2 years left on his contract, so by that time you let Hayward walk in free agency, and then you can sign Donovan Mitchell to that. That basically that same contract you're going to be paying Hayward for the next couple years. And Hayward also kind of fills a need. You still have Tony Bradley, who's a solid center. Ed Davis, who's another solid center. So it's not like you're going to... Of course, you're going to be missing Gobert. He's been a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate. So you are going to miss him, but are you going to miss him that much in today's day and age, right? So I think throwing a third team in here, it's got to be somebody with some money, like the Knicks, who want some draft capital. Boston's probably going to have to give up a first to Utah and a first to whoever they're also trading to. And the Knicks have plenty of contracts that can make this work. I mean, they could send Taj Gibson to the Jazz. They could, yeah, they could. There's a lot that could make this work for sure.
The Knicks you're talking about there?
Yeah, the Knicks.
I can see that for sure. Like you said, still send Hayward, still sending him to Utah.
Yeah, we're still gonna end up sending Hayward to Utah and Gobert to the Celtics. I mean, you could send Hayward to the Knicks and then just send, Utah just gets a bunch of draft picks, and then maybe they also end up with a big man like either Randall or Bobby Portis, which, the Knicks have so many power forwards. You have Randall, you have Portis, you have Gibson. Knox can play the four a little bit too. So they can spare one of those. Plus, they have that $4 million trade exception from Marcus Morris as well. I think the Knicks are in a good position to make some moves. The question is, how aggressive are they going to be in terms of acquiring draft capital or players? I think if they're going to go for the player, they would go for, like, let's take Hayward, let's start this rebuild right now and try to be contender this year with R.J. Barrett, Dennis Smith Jr., Knox, Hayward, and then get kind of unclog this logjam that they have at power forward. But I think that's the best way to do it. But I agree. Celtics, they need a big body down low because they have plenty of scoring. Any big man that goes there, like even Theus was doing work later on in the playoffs for them. I think you get rid of you get rid of Cantor. You keep Theus as your backup center. I think he's a perfect backup center. He kind of reminds me a lot of like Birdman, but can shoot. And then you bring in maybe you don't go superstar Gobert.
Birdman.
How did I disrespect Birdman?
Said he can't shoot.
Could he shoot?
Well, I mean, I won't say it.
But you just did.
That's real disrespectful, man.
I mean, I don't think
I
it's
won't say it.
disrespectful
I
to
won't say
state a
it.
fact about a player. Now, if I wanted to be disrespectful, I would say, Birdman was not contributing to, his championship teams, which that's a lie. That would be a straight up, just straight up shade. We all know Birdman does the things that, you have to find special people to do.
But like here.
And plus, that was a whole different era. I think in this era, he probably would have worked on his shot a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
And maybe he can shoot. He was just never allowed to shoot. Like Dwight I've seen Dwight hit threes, but I think also he's not actually allowed to shoot in games that matter anyways.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of big mans like Adams. Before this year, was he actually allowed to shoot? Is that why he shot 0%? Or now that he's kind of being unleashed a little bit, maybe he's always been a 30% shooter from three, which is fine. Like if he can knock out 1 out of 3 every single game, and just be that like, okay, you have to take that step out. Like, that would make such a big difference for driving lanes for offense. Or even if he's just, hit that midi. You don't necessarily need to hit threes to space the floor. But you definitely have to hit that deep, too.
3-ball era.
It is a 3-ball era. I do agree. That's something that we might need to save. We might need to parking lot that and talk about, the whole... 3 versus 2, mid-range versus 3, why the NBA kind of went this direction and positionless basketball and all that good stuff. Personally, if I was building a team today, I would honestly get 5 forwards and they would all be able to shoot a little bit, handle a little bit, play defense a little bit. Give me 5 LeBrons and I'm winning every championship. Obviously, but even, obviously that's like a bad comparison because he is the best player in the world. But even if you gave me like 5 Jaylen Browns or 5 Jason Tatums or even, 5 RJ Barretts if we want to go younger or 5 Zion Williamsons, I'm going to be able to win a lot of games with a lineup like that where you just have players who can do literally anything you ask them to do. I think that would be the best. If I was a GM, that'd be my team.
That's true. I can see that for sure.
I mean, it'd be really hard to find, it'd be really hard to build that team, I think, because
Yeah.
those types of players are so valued. But I would be doing everything that I could to get to build that team as a general manager and just see if it works. I don't think that there's been a team that's actually tried that. I think at times you see it, like the Golden State Warriors, but even then, like you can't really say that they did it because Steph Curry's obviously not a forward. So the Lakers kind of had it, but again, you have Caruso out there, so it's not really a true, he's not really a forward. He is a wing player, but he's not a forward, so that doesn't really count either. So you haven't really seen, somebody commit, all into, let's get as many, 6'6" to 6'9" players on the court at a time that can all make plays, that can all, score. Obviously, there are going to be weaknesses. Some will shoot better than others. Some that shoot better might not be as athletic on defense, but you play around that. But I think if they can all switch, that just makes your defense a lot easier to play. You can funnel everything into your best defensive player. And offensively, everybody could share the rock and average about the same amount of points. Nobody necessarily needs to be a star. But of course you could always have that one, super scorer like a Jason Tatum, right?
It just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So our next team that we're going to be talking about, so just to recap, we talked about the Lakers, the Clippers, the Celtics, talked a little about the OKC, a little bit about Utah here. We even threw the Knicks. I kind of want to skip down here to the 76ers. So the 76ers just hired Morey from the Rockets as their GM, right? And Doc Rivers.
Yeah, they brought in 2 fresh faces.
Yeah. So they must be thinking either A, they're going to blow it up, or B, they think that it's not the roster, it was the coaching and the management. I personally think that Embiid and Simmons are too similar to work together. Personally, I would trade Embiid because you're going to get more for him than you would Simmons because he's a little bit further along in his development. He's going to be right in his prime. And he does have that injury history more so than Simmons, even though Simmons has been banged up too in his career. And even though Embiid has that shot, I think you take Simmons, you put 4 shooters around him, and you roll with it. Because Simmons can play really excellent defense, and you don't necessarily need a traditional big man. He's 6'10". He can play both sides of the ball. Technically, he could be like a 0.5 if you want to look at it like that.
On Simmons, you said?
Yeah, Simmons, yeah. So what do you think? Which one should they trade first? And who should they target if they do trade? Or should they run it back?
I think they need to go get somebody, honestly. Because, well, let's start at the top, though. You got Elton Brand calling the shots. He had a good-looking roster when he first got it. And everybody had a lot of high hopes for him. It makes sense that they did the Jimmy Butler deal. Because he obviously wasn't happy there. But my biggest problem with him handicapping that roster was signing Al Horford to that massive contract. a 4-year, $107 million contract to pair him with Joel Embiid, which was just, to me, a horrible move.
Yeah, in a league that's
No.
getting consistently smaller and smaller, and you're going to add another big man who's, don't get me wrong, Horford has never really been that, like, crazy athletic, but he's obviously in the twilight of his career, and he does shoot, he does play defense, but he's more of a center than a power forward. So that pairing to me, athletically speaking, in terms of, playing, like, think about all the fours in today's that are at the top, right? You have AD, you've got Kawhi, Paul George, they can play the four. You have Jason Tatum who plays the four. All these like really athletic, quick players that can get their own shot. Al Horford can't hold them on the perimeter.
He's there. That's about the best thing you can say about him right now. He was a little bit of a force, but he's got to be. You have to set him up for him to be successful, I think.
Yeah. I mean, another player that I think that they kind of forced on, which wouldn't have been as bad if they didn't take the Horford trade, but it looks like, he's overpaid because he's actually making the most money on the roster right now, is Tobias Harris. $33 million for somebody who's never been a superstar. I think he might have made the All-Star game once ever. So to pay him $33 million a year and you're stuck with that for another 4 or 5 years.
It was a 5-year, $180 million max contract for Tobias Harris.
Yeah, to me that's insane. So I would think that Morey not liking big men anyways, right? We can see that with him training away Clint Capella, starting Robert Covington at the 5. We can see that he doesn't like big men generally. I would say he's going to trade Embiid for a king's ransom, which wouldn't blame him. And then he's going to turn around with that capital and package it with, even if he keeps Horford, but I think what he should do is trade Embiid to somebody like the Celtics. You could trade him to the Celtics, and you could bring back a Gordon Hayward or a Marcus Smart and get 2, 3, however many first round picks the 76ers asked for. I would say I would probably get 1 or 2 from this year, and then maybe some future draft picks, but you could get a king's ransom for Embiid, even bring somebody back in or draft capital, and then you could trade that draft capital and Al Horford for a good pairing for Ben Simmons. Like, Washington probably would take a Al Horford and 2 or 3 first round picks for a Bradley Beal. I would think. Or even, OKC would probably take Al Horford and a few first round picks for a CP3. I would think. What do you all say?
I'll let Ben take over on this one first with asking about the Oklahoma City trade. I know you ideally wouldn't want it, but in the long term, would you do that?
Would I personally, right? Would I do it if I had the power? No.
Would you want for them to do it?
Would I want for them to do it? No. I would. No.
So Oklahoma
But I
City
could
or
see the reason. Like, I
Boston would
understand.
have to give up more for that to work out. Because
I wouldn't do
CP3
it.
is on that
No.
$38 million a year contract.
I mean, I don't really see tons of value in Embiid, to be honest. I feel like they have been riding that horse and they definitely weren't riding it right, and they got what they got. And so they shouldn't expect a king's ransom out of it, to be honest, even though not knocking him, but I'm just saying in the situation, I feel like they really didn't help him in his full potential. So it's not like he, in my book, would be highly. I don't think they did him. Philly.
I don't know. I'd take him. Dude's averaged 23 and 11 over his career with a 30% 3-point shot at 7 foot tall. And he's, I would say, more so your traditional back down center. So he's going to get you in the paint, back you down, and score on you easily. But the fact that he shoots at least 30%, that to me gives him more value as a big man in this current era than, I mean, he'd probably be top 5, top 3. No, I'm not gonna say top 3. Probably top 5 of who I would want to go after. Being young, has the size, has the shot, which the shot should only get better the more he plays at it. So I would say
They
so.
really need to bamboozle a team taking Horford.
Horford, you got to get 28 million off your books. That's what Horford's.
That's what I was saying. They need to bamboozle something. Like,
So
I feel like that's the key move in a lot of ways.
So this trade was successful in the ESPN trade machine. Now, this is not including the ridiculous amount of draft picks that are going to be sent around here, but I'm just going to give out the bare bones of it and then just say like as many draft picks as it takes to make it work. But, okay, Celtics send Gordon Hayward to the Thunder. The 76ers send Embiid to the Celtics. The 76ers will also be sending Horford to the Thunder. The Thunder will be sending Chris Paul and Steven Adams to the 76ers. And then the Celtics are going to be giving up as many first and second round picks as needed to make this work to most likely the Thunder because they're eating these salaries.
I could ride with that.
What this would do would allow Horford to go back to his natural position of the 5. He can stretch the floor for the Thunder. The Thunder get off that crazy Chris Paul trade. The 76ers get a guard who can stretch the floor, run it, complement Ben Simmons. Steven Adams may not be the best complement for that team. That's, we kind of have to see where that goes. The reason why I think that this trade works for everybody involved is because Oklahoma City gets a lot more draft capital like right now. And then next year when Gordon Hayward's contract is expiring, they could trade that plus draft picks for somebody in return, or trade Hayward to a team like the Knicks, who's probably going to mess this offseason up, and get some more draft capital. And they're going to have just so much draft capital. At some point, though, the Thunder are going to have to do something with all those picks. You can't just expect like you're going to draft, the next Kevin Durant or however. But this trade was successful. I just don't know if this is something that would be realistic, because this would be like probably the biggest blockbuster trade in the history of the NBA, just counting the money. It'd be over $150 million in contracts moving around, and I'm talking about just this year. I'm not talking about total money, by the way, but just this year, it would be over 150 million moved around. I don't think that's ever been done before.
I'm a firm believer in draft picks, so believe in being stingy with them. That's your future as a franchise. Your blood.
Like what Boston did with them.
Yeah, and also look how many years Boston had to be at the bottom of the barrel to get those players. So, I mean, obviously it was a little different because they had those Nets picks, which definitely sped it up. But imagine if they didn't, it would have took them they still wouldn't be in contention right now. But you can also look at teams that have been picking consistently in the top 10 for years and years and years and still aren't competing, like the Suns, which they did look really competitive at the end of the bubble, but that's a team that, looks like they're up and coming, but they whiffed on so many top 5 picks. So many top 5 picks.
Well, I mean, that's why I feel like what KC is doing, stockpiling, like are you saying they need the dumps? No, I feel like, maybe move a few if you have to. You don't need to dump a lot. But, like, the more lines you got out there, you're going to strike somewhere. I feel like you just got to keep your chances high.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing the lottery with draft picks just like the NFL, just like any sport. When you draft a player, you're drafting them based on their potential. But I think that my philosophy as a GM would be like, yes, if I have the picks and I need to make the picks, I'm gonna make the picks. I'm gonna hope for the best. But I would say I'm gonna trade for known commodities that I know what I'm going to get out of them, because as soon as you draft a player, they're no longer as valuable until they prove themselves, right? So like even if I have the number 1 overall pick, as soon as I draft that player, their value instantly doesn't mean much until they step on a court and actually prove themselves, which can take 2-3 years, right?
True. But,
and
I mean, you also have to look at it in the aspect of OKC that they are so they, you gotta, if you're a small market, you depend on, you need to strike hot. Like, there's not a lot of players, I'm sure, when free agent, what? OKC is the spot, they got everything.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand that, but I also understand that, like, if a star gets traded there for, and they still have 3 or 4 years on their contract, they still got to play it out. So, whether they like it or not, I don't think OKC was Chris Paul's first choice to be traded to. So I think that is something, but he's going to play that contract out. I mean, he's going to get $44 million next year. Are you going to turn that down?
Well, I mean, it kind of depends on what side of the carousel you want to be on as far as the draft picks. Do you want to take your chances and, have a lot of lines out there, just catch a big fish, or you want to keep playing the game of, getting somebody who is, proven, but I mean, nothing is guaranteed, obviously. So, freak acts happen.
Yeah.
And but you can be wasting capital in that sense where you give up picks for one player and then that don't, as you can 3-4 players that maybe you hit it on one, maybe you hit it on two, if you hit it on all four, like they did with KD, they did it with Russell, they did it with Harden, like it can be proven to be done.
Block also.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother podcast right there, is talking about that debacle of managing talent. To be honest, I don't want to get into it right now because I feel like we could literally talk for 2 hours just on that specific, like, handling of that situation, because I would have done a lot things different. And unfortunately, my move, I would have I feel like OKC should not have chose Westbrook over Kevin Durant. I don't know if it was really like that, but we can get into that on another day. Right now, I kind of want to move it along. We only have a little bit of time here. We've already smashed our projected time. So let's go ahead and try to get through this list. We may need to break this up into 2 parts, but right now I want to talk, speaking of Westbrook, talk about the Rockets. They have said that they're committed to the current roster. They don't think that the issue is with the roster. So I'm guessing they thought maybe it was the coaching. Rockets, do you blow it up and rebuild, or do you run it back?
I feel like you gotta commit.
I think what they have is good. I just think they need one piece. And that's a big man for me. I know Maury, it's not his way to go about it, but you obviously need it. PJ's not going to go out there and get you 14, 15 rebounds a game. He could be a serviceable, like, 7, 8. I could see that for sure, but you need somebody, even if it is like an Enos Kanter from Boston, to get him out of there. Somebody with some height to play and get the rebounds for you. You can shoot 40, 50 threes a game, but if you don't have somebody getting a rebound, it's pointless.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
need.
losing Capella was, I don't know.
Well, they didn't
I
lose
didn't.
him. They purposely got moved off of him. So let's remember that.
They gave him away.
Yeah, because remember they had him locked up for what, 3 or 4 more years after, because he did re-sign with them. So they gave him away. They didn't, you know.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like them just letting him go, it's beyond me.
Yeah.
Just losing that kind of talent, especially with what you got. Who's the backup? Really? That's like, you may as well have me going. I'm playing center, guys. I'll get you 0.7 rebounds a season.
And then we got Tyson Chandler just kind of hanging out in warm-ups every game.
Yeah, that's true. I think that somebody like, I know we keep coming back to him, but Steven Adams would work there, and make that lineup fine. But what are you going to give up to get him?
I
And
mean, I could see it, but I don't know. Like, I think he's still kind of just falling into the problem. I think they really committed to the small ball too much, to the point where it's like you either commit to the roster you got, maybe try to just bring someone in, don't really lose too much, or you got to break it all up.
yeah,
You got to commit to one of them.
see, this might sound kind of, out there. Maybe it's unrealistic. Maybe it's super realistic. I don't know. I would say that you move off Westbrook and you get you, maybe not a true center, but you get you somebody who can, at least bang with you. You have to be able to keep up with AD, over there with the Lakers. I mean, you're never going to, but you can at least limit it. I don't necessarily have a name off the top of my head right now. But if I was forced to think about it, given like what I've already talked about in terms of like moves I'd like to see, this might be the wrong direction for this team. But what about Russell Westbrook for the Magic's Vucevic? He's a big man who can bang. He's not the greatest on defense, but he can rebound and he can shoot the three.
I think it could fit.
I just don't know if the Magic want to take that direction with Markelle Fultz kind of showing why he was the number one pick last year and into the bubble. I just don't know if
I
they
think you
want to
do
do
it
it.
because he hasn't proven himself still. Like you just said, there's no confidence there.
No, I said he's starting to though. He played really well in the bubble. So I
Whoa,
don't know if they
okay.
want to go that route.
But he's still not like a proven guy. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he still needs to
Like
put
Russ is.
together.
Russ is proven.
He still needs to put together a whole nother like solid season before you're like, this is our guy. But I think bringing along they want to compete like right now. Like they've been wanting to compete.
Well, do you think Fultz could learn something from Russ? I think he could. He could definitely get a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, he would pick up that confidence, right? That swagger that Fultz has. Like Fultz has all the tools. Like he
I just
coming out
think
of
if he was
college.
more angry like how Russ is, like that's why I love Russ. I
Yeah,
love just for his like he's a player. He's gonna go out there like how he said he has no friends but the ball. Like,
yeah.
he's just out there to ball.
And you
I
could
think that if
really
Fultz could get that mentality again, like how he was broke down, he needs to kind of get that confidence back up to have somebody that's gonna he's gonna feel like they have his back.
Yeah. And then you could go forward with Mo Bamba as your starting center. And, you get to keep Isaac and Aaron Gordon. So you'd have a lineup of Westbrook, uh, Fournier, I guess. Terrence Ross coming off the bench. Fultz coming off the bench. That'll give you a nice 1-2 punch, both starting and coming off the
Hmm.
bench. You have Aaron
See, I think that's
Gordon,
definitely a
Isaac.
doable thing for both teams.
Yeah. So I think that would definitely be something that they should at least consider. What's your
Because Rockets definitely need the height and the Magic. I just feel like if they are going to be putting their chips in on Fultz, because he's young, he can still be there for a minute. Like, I feel like they need to kind of build him up now instead of just, kind of rolling the dice, just living on that prayer. Because, like I said, he's not proven. Yeah, he improved. Success is success. Progress is progress, no matter how little, but not proven yet.
what do you think, Tyler?
I think he may be with the dogs still.
Okay, that's totally fine. So we'll come back to Tyler when he returns. So just looking over the kind of the cap situation here, I'm not sure how valuable this player is, but I'm going to go ahead and actually I don't think I need to do that. Hold on, let me see if I can. Can I put this trade exception in there? No? Okay.
What was it that you were asking me? I just caught the end of that.
Okay, so we're right now discussing a Westbrook for Vucevic from the Magic swap. If the Magic would want to even go that route, I don't know. But to me, it kind of makes sense for both sides. One, you get to move Harden back to the point. You get to move everybody back up. So, Covington gets to go back to his natural 3 position. PJ Tucker gets to move back up to his natural 4 position. You get Vucevic, who may not be the best defensive player, but he can shoot and grab boards. And then the Magic get their point guard in Westbrook, who can mentor Fultz while Fultz is still proving himself. Fultz and Ross can come off the bench. You'll have Westbrook and Fournier there, and you can also, kind of move forward with Mo Bamba as your starting center and commit to him.
Oh, I would love to see Mo Bamba come off the bench. Or not, yeah, actually get to have a reoccurring role. I think it would be a great trade for both teams. Because Nikola, he can come down there. They can still run their 3-ball game. But he's big enough to where he can come out there and pull down rebounds. He's similar to how I was talking about Embiid. He's 6'11". He is a career 33% three-point shooter. So, why would you not want to bring that in to pair along with what Maury set up as a 3-point team? Like you said, though, who knows if they want to continue with that style of play and make that team known as a 3-point team exclusively. So I could see it working with both sides, but Russ just may have a harder time in Orlando, or he may get to go back to being the star that I think he wants to be. He wants to be the focal point of the offense.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely think that that's interesting. Nobody's talked about that potential trade, so I kind of feel a little bit good about, kind of thinking about it on the spot here. So the last one that I kind of want to talk about today, so that we don't go too long here, is Giannis. I want to finish out here with the reigning MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Everybody knows that he's on his last year of, unless he resigns, of course. But he's on his last year. Do you risk it like OKC did and lose him for nothing? Do you trade him and maybe a little bit... obviously that would make that relationship, unrepairable, because I think if Giannis doesn't want to be traded and wants to stay, and then you trade him because you feared about losing him for nothing, then he would definitely be real sad and real upset about that. But I think that with Giannis being on his last year, do you trade him for something, or do you try to make one last run? Maybe you show Giannis by saying, hey, like, we're not done making moves. We're going to package this guy for this guy. And if so, like, who are you moving out? Who are you moving in? Last topic of tonight's podcast, Giannis. What do you do with him?
If I'm Giannis, I give them this last season to show me that they can commit to me and building pieces around me. They have told him that they're going to get him help, and he's got some help, but not the help I feel like they absolutely need. But like if you don't trade him, you run the case of losing him and getting nothing in return. I've seen countless debates where everybody's saying that the Warriors have some of the best packages to offer them. But it is crazy to me that they could trade for him without getting rid of Steph, Clay, or Draymond. But the number one trade package I've seen does not include any of those three.
So yeah, they would trade what? Wiggins, that top 3 pick, plus as many future picks as they want, right? That's basically would be the bare bones of that trade.
So what I've seen is Eric Pascal, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, and their 2 first-round picks that they have. So
Yeah, I mean
it may be enough. Who knows?
it works on salary wise. On paper, Milwaukee does get a little bit of a return. They do get some draft capital. They would still be competitive in the East with that lineup, I think. But if I'm Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's seen a lot of, missed opportunities over their course because they are in a small market. Nobody wants to really come there as a free agent. I think they did overpay for Middleton a little bit, but I think it was necessary. I think they need to find a way.
That's what I was about to say. Like, it was necessary. Like, that dude can shoot.
Yeah, but he hasn't really came up in the playoffs big. He hasn't had like that defining game of being like, this is the clear number 2. I think Middleton's a clear number 3 guy. I think he's like a slightly better version of a Tobias Harris. So I think that in that case, if you compare those two, they have similar skill sets, and Middleton's a little bit cheaper. I think he's making $2 million less this year. So if you compare that, then yeah, you got a little bit of a deal, but I don't think that he's your number 2. I think he's your number 3. But what can you give up to bring in a number 3, and who is that?
That's why you gotta
Because
maybe.
I don't think you can bring in a number 2, but maybe if you had 2 number 3s. I know that sounds weird, but that's better than not having, not having what you have right now.
Like
you said
they
earlier,
just don't have enough to move.
6'6", 6'9", and let them play it.
Like you absolutely, I want to know how much cap space they do have, because I did not see them like being able to make a huge move.
The only one that I feel like they could trade for something is probably Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe, I feel like, has been holding them back a little bit because he can't really shoot, and he's really not been. I mean, he's been a good defensive player, but he hasn't been like what he was before all the injuries, obviously. But he is a player that I feel like they might be able to trade for something. I don't know what that is, though.
So what if they kept him and then signed Goran Dragic?
No, I would rather trade Bledsoe and then sign Dragic. Like, I would trade Bledsoe for something. I think Dragic would be a great fit because Dragic can shoot the ball, run the pick and roll with Giannis a lot better than Bledsoe, where Giannis doesn't necessarily have to always rely on getting his own shot like he does right now. And then you trade Bledsoe for a shooter.
He is the Greek freak. He should be able to get his own shot almost anywhere. Just saying. The dude is a freak of nature.
Yeah, and he will still have those moments, but I think that you have to take, just like with LeBron, just like with all the greats, you have to take a little bit of the pressure off on him because he's proven that because he doesn't fully have that jumper down, which he's been getting better and better and better with it, which is scary, but when teams focus all their attention on Giannis and really pack that paint, it makes it really hard for him to operate, and he needs that floor to be open. I think Bledsoe, they're like, I'm going to live with him shooting. Even to an extent, like when Robin Lopez is out there, they really kind of like, well, we just kind of live with them. I think the Bucks did do a good job of mostly surrounding him with some decent shooters, but Bledsoe really hurts that. I don't think in today's NBA you can have 2 non-shooters on the floor at the same time. So I would say Bledsoe for somebody like I'm trying to think of somebody off the top of my head that would be a good fit for both sides and makes sense.
I mean, what if we bring back Rubio again? Conversation.
Uh I think I mean Rubio would definitely fit for like the the side of it of like the playmaking side, but you really he can shoot, but he's not like knocked down. I think you really need a knockdown shooter, even more so than a playmaker, because I think like Giannis can still make plays. I just think that he needs space. Obviously, if you could get both playmaking and that, then great. I'm just kind of coming up on a blank of like who actually would be that person. Maybe that's a Terry Rozier from Charlotte. Maybe that's a Malik Monk from Charlotte. I don't think that they're going to give up Devontae Graham, but those two.
Drew Holiday.
I don't think you can get him with just Eric Bledsoe though. I think you'd have to send so many picks that it just wouldn't make sense for Milwaukee, because if Giannis leaves, you're going to need those picks to rebuild. So I think Drew Holiday would be great if you had the firepower to get him. But are they going to trade Eric Bledsoe? They're gonna have to give Eric Bledsoe and like a Ilyasova or a Brook Lopez or a George Hill just to make the money work, and then you're gonna get back, Drew Holiday, and you're also gonna have to send them a bunch of picks. So I mean, I don't see why the Pelicans would want to help the Bucks out like that when they could get a better deal somewhere else.
Got one more. What about Mike Conley?
I didn't really like what I seen from Mike Conley, but again, you're giving up. You're gonna have to give up Eric Bledsoe, one of your death. Actually, probably. Do they? Yeah. I mean, I can see if it works, but you'd have to give up probably Eric Bledsoe and Brook Lopez for Mike Conley, and you're gonna have to give up picks. Does it even work? It does work in terms of success. Actually, the analysis says that the Utah Jazz would actually be getting the better of that trade, and I kind of agree. Mike Conley didn't look like Mike Conley last year, but it could be just new system, and he was hurt a lot, so that could be playing a factor. I would rather try to get Bogdanovich from the Jazz over Mike Conley. Bogdanovich could play my 3. I could move Middleton to my 2. You give up Bledsoe and maybe a first. That would be more what I would think from that team. I honestly think, like, what about, I don't know if this would be something that the Clippers would want to do, but Eric Bledsoe for Lou Will. I don't think the Clippers would want to do that.
Yeah. I don't know about it, especially with the way, like, I know Lou Will's good, but I just don't see him being that step up above that they need.
True. I mean, I do agree to an extent with that. Um, I don't think that they have the firepower to go get like. I mean, they might be able to get Oladipo. That might be a interesting thing. I don't think the Pacers are gonna part with T.J. Warren after he lit up the bubble. But that would be a a sniper that you would definitely love to have there. Or maybe even a Terrence Ross from the Magic. If the Magic wanted to part ways with him, I don't know if they would. But maybe that would give them another point guard to kind of have like an insurance policy in case Fultz, doesn't realize his potential. Maybe they could go and get. I'm trying to think. It's real hard to like find someone like who's gonna take Eric Bledsoe, for one of their better pieces. That's the problem. Like me personally, I'm not touching Eric Bledsoe. I'm sorry if that's throwing shade on Bledsoe. Bledsoe, if you're listening, or if you ever do listen to this in the future, I'm sorry, man. But it's nothing personal. It's just facts. Maybe even like.
What about one of the guards from New York?
You're talking about the Knicks, right?
Yep.
So like, Peyton's not really a shooter. Ellington maybe, but
Frank or Dennis? You think they would part with them?
I don't think they'll get rid of Dennis. They might do Frank, but is Frank a upgrade from Bledsoe? Right now, I'm talking about like right now. They're trying to win this year to keep Giannis, right? If I'm Giannis, I'm only staying if I at least make the finals. I'm not saying that they have to win it, but we at least have to make it, right? We have to get over this hump of at least making it to the finals, and then maybe the next time we make the finals, we win it. But you have to show me something. I just don't think Frank is that piece that's going to be like, okay, we're now significantly better than we were. So I was actually leaning towards maybe even like one of the guards from San Antonio. Like, I know it sounds weird, but what about like a Patty Mills? Somebody who could really hit that three ball consistently.
Yeah, Patty, he's just been a reliable point guard that you can just plug in and go with.
Yeah. And he would be a downgrade on defense, but he would be an upgrade for their spacing, and I think that's more what they need. I don't think that they're going to give up like a Lonnie Walker or even Derek White. So that would be kind of like the option there. I'm just kind of spitballing here, of course, off the top of my head. But I really don't see it. Maybe you get away with. I was gonna say Jeff Teague, but Jeff Teague's gonna be a free agent. So you could just sign him, to be honest. So maybe a Dinwiddie from Brooklyn. Because I don't think Kyrie and Dinwiddie fit on the floor together. Obviously, Dinwiddie wants to run his own team. You get Bledsoe. Bledsoe can come off the bench and probably wouldn't be too upset about it because he knows the deal. And then you get that change up from like that superstar scorer Kyrie, and then you come in with like a defensive backup point guard that can really like disrupt the opponent's best ball handler from time to time. Since he's going to be playing less minutes, he probably doesn't get hurt as much, and he can probably play more efficient defense and not really have to like worry about exhausting himself, getting hurt, and I think that would be a better role for him.
What about somebody like Fred VanVleet?
Do you think that you would trade him for? Would you? Okay, let me ask you. Would you trade him?
VanVleet's unrestricted.
Oh, so yeah, you would just sign him. Yeah,
you would have to offer more than what, because Toronto can offer him a max.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you would have to offer him a max. I don't think they could afford that. They would have to. They would have to sign. Wouldn't they have to sign and trade him then?
Likely.
Yeah, so they would have to sign and trade for Bledsoe and Brook Lopez and probably picks to make it work money wise. And then I would do that though. I would definitely do that. If they could just straight up, sign him, that would be perfect. But they don't have the. I don't think they have the money to even match that offer. And is he he's unrestricted? You said, or do you say restricted?
That's what I was looking for to see the exact on it.
Yeah, because
Unrestricted.
yeah, if he's unrestricted, he can go wherever he wants. But the Raptors would be able to offer him the most money, right? Because they own his rights.
Yep.
So if I'm Van Vliet, I'm gonna go. I want to go somewhere that I can compete for a championship, even if it means I have to take a haircut. Now, where that place is, there's definitely some places that could use his services. He's definitely not gonna go to like the Lakers, but that would be one of the places that he would just fit in like so seamlessly. But he could definitely find his way to a Clippers team that suddenly has a bunch of cap space if they clear it up, or a Milwaukee team that if they can figure out how to free up that space, or even Miami. I think Van Vliet would be perfect in Miami because they can renounce Dragic's and Solomon Hill's contracts, Myers Leonard's contract, and there's a max slot. Van Vliet, Butler, you keep Iggy, obviously Hero and all them boys, and that would be kind of a scary lineup right there.
Yeah, I could see him definitely fitting in. I could see him being what they needed. Like
Yeah,
somebody else that can lock up and just play on their man, like Jimmy.
yeah.
So they've got shooters and stuff, but
And he's also another shooter. Like, let's not forget that he made a lot of clutch threes for Toronto over the last few years.
I just think that they definitely need that. I just don't know what Milwaukee can do to prove to Giannis that like
That he
you're gonna have to trade somebody, but you're more than likely gonna trade a piece that you actually need for something that you think would appease him.
Yeah, and I don't think that money wise, there's for the players that you have, right? Like obviously, like you don't want to really get rid of Brook Lopez or George Hill, right? In a perfect world, you would keep those two, and then you would the odd man out is Eric Bledsoe, but again, what do you get for him? Like what are you gonna give up? Maybe you can talk to Detroit and maybe you bring in Derrick Rose, but does Derrick Rose want to go to the Bucks? The Pistons have said that they really want to do right by Derrick Rose, and does the Pistons want to bring in Eric Bledsoe on that 4-year deal? I don't think so. So it's like, what can they do to make Giannis want to stay there? One, but also, what can they do to to get over that hump and make it to the finals? That they have a good coach. Seems like they have a decent front office. They're making lemonade out of lemons, but I feel like Giannis is going to leave, and the reason why I think that he's going to leave is because he does want to compete for championships. And he can say he wants to stay in Milwaukee all he wants, but I know that he just saw his little brother win a championship with the Lakers. Not saying that he's gonna go to Lakers, but imagine him walking and doing a Kevin Durant, going and playing with, Curry and Clay, and, the Bucks losing him for nothing. Like, that could be a situation that happens. And then all of a sudden Golden State's now again a top 5 team. Obviously, they'd be probably the favorites if that happened, especially if they could then trade Wiggins and, Green for even another star, and that first round pick. Well, this would be next year, so they probably wouldn't have a top pick, but they could definitely trade Wiggins and Green for somebody. But that's another thing. I think the Golden State Warriors need to trade Draymond while his value is still there, and then get something back from him, because I think he's just downhill from here. But to wrap up, Giannis, I think he's going to leave. I think he's going to leave Milwaukee high and dry. I don't think he wants to sit there and, not have that legacy of, okay, I want to grow down as one of the greatest players of all time. He's not going to be that with the Bucks. He might get into the conversation, but I don't think he's going to win any championships with Milwaukee. Not as currently constructed.
Same way. I mean, you can only trust and stay in there so much and be let down so many times before you finally go and go after what you want instead of trying to keep the city happy.
Yeah, I agree. So we're going to wrap it up right here. It's been great talking to you, Tyler. Great talking to you again, Ben. We will be back in the studio making some more episodes, bringing you all those greatest life questions. We're going to be talking about, again, game theory, sports theory, music theory, food theory, just a little bit of everything and anything. And who knows, next time we could be talking about your favorite subject. So subscribe, like, stay tuned, download us, share us with your friends, let everybody know, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You know what to do. Take care, be happy, be healthy. If you all need us, you know how to get to us.